Have you ever felt the searing sting of humiliation? Not just a fleeting blush of embarrassment, but a deep, resonant wound that echoes in the silent chambers of your soul. It's a moment that replays itself on a loop, a ghost that haunts the midnight corridors of your mind, long after the world has moved on. It feels like a branding, a mark of shame burned upon your very essence. But what if I told you that this fire was not meant to destroy you, but to forge you? What if this profound pain is not the end of your power, but the very crucible in which your true, unshakable sovereignty is born? Many feel this sting and believe they are broken, that their light has been diminished. If this message is reaching you now, know that it is no accident. This is a sign from the universe, a call to your higher self to awaken to a power you never knew you possessed. You are not alone in this feeling, and you are not crazy. This is a shared journey of awakening, and what you are about to learn will change everything. If you feel the truth in these words, let the universe know by liking this message, subscribe to continue your journey with us, and share your story in the comments below. Let others know they are not alone by simply typing, "I am ready to awaken." The sting of humiliation, my friend, is a spiritual litmus test. It's an energetic event designed to reveal where your power is anchored. Is it anchored within your own divine core, or is it tethered to the ever-shifting opinions and judgments of the outside world? To the average person living in a state of spiritual slumber, public shame is the ultimate defeat. It's a social death sentence, a moment of profound powerlessness, where their sense of self is shattered by the perceptions of others. They feel their vibration plummet, their energy drain, their very spirit contract in on itself. But for the soul on the path of awakening, for the Machiavellian mind attuned to the deeper currents of power, this moment is not a defeat. Oh no, it is a setup. It is a divine invitation to perform the most sacred of alchemies, to turn lead into gold, poison into nectar, shame into unshakable power. The true spiritual warrior, the master of their own reality, does not fear the fire of public shame. They do not run from it. They step into it, for they understand that the flames that threaten to consume the ego are the very same flames that temper the soul into a weapon of light. They use it. This is not about revenge in the worldly sense. This is about a profound and strategic inversion of energy, a cold, calculated reversal that turns the one who cast the stone into the one who is revealed. It's a sacred art that transforms the laughter of the crowd into a confused silence, and the one who tried to make you bleed into the one who is left emotionally and spiritually bankrupt. But before you can wield this divine sword, before you learn how to masterfully reverse this energetic attack, you must first understand its anatomy. You need to perceive why humiliation works so potently on the unawakened spirit. It's never just about a moment of embarrassment. That's the surface illusion. The true game is being played on a much deeper, energetic level. It's a game of positioning. When someone attempts to humiliate you, especially in a public forum, they are attempting to do three things at once, three distinct energetic maneuvers designed to strip you of your power. First, they are seizing control of the narrative. They are attempting to define you, to paint a picture of you for the audience before you have the chance to hold the brush yourself. They are casting you in the role of the fool, the weakling, the failure. They are creating an energetic frame, a prison of perception, and thrusting you inside it. They are telling the world, this is who this person is, and banking on the crowd's tendency to accept the first story they're told. They steal the spotlight, that sacred space of attention, and they hand you the heavy cloak of shame to wear in its place. You must understand that this is a direct assault on your energetic sovereignty, an attempt to rewrite your signature frequency with their own distorted, lower vibrational ink. The second maneuver is the deliberate lowering of your status, not just socially, but vibrationally. In the great theater of human interaction, we are all constantly broadcasting a frequency, an energetic signal that communicates our level of self-worth, our power, our alignment with our true selves. An act of humiliation is a brute force attempt to disrupt your frequency, to knock you off your center and pull you down to a lower, more chaotic vibrational level. They are trying to make you smaller in the eyes of others so that they, by comparison, can feel bigger. This is the desperate act of a spirit that feels its own inner lack, a soul that cannot generate its own light and so seeks to extinguish the light of others. They are energetic vampires, seeking to feed off the power they drain from you in that moment of perceived weakness. They create a spectacle not to celebrate anything of value, but to create a hierarchy with themselves at the top, a temporary illusion of dominance built on the foundation of your manufactured shame. Their goal is to have the crowd's energy, their focus and agreement, validate this false hierarchy, solidifying their position and cementing your role as the vanquished. And third, and perhaps most importantly, they are testing your reaction. This is the linchpin of their entire strategy. Your response is the final piece of the puzzle that either locks you into their frame or shatters it completely. How you react in the seconds following the attack determines whether you are respected, pitied, or forgotten. And this, right here, is where most people fail the test. They fall into the trap laid for their ego. They overreact. They lash out with anger, their energy flaring up in a chaotic, uncontrolled burst that only serves to make them look unstable and, ironically, powerless. Or they explain. They rush to defend themselves, to correct the record, to justify their actions. A frantic dance of words that signals to everyone watching that the attack has indeed found its mark. Their defensiveness screams, "You've hurt me. Your perception of me matters more than my own." Or, perhaps saddest of all, they shrink into silence. Not the powerful, sovereign silence of the master, but the wounded, defeated silence of the victim. They collapse inward, their posture slumps, their eyes fall, and their energy field visibly retracts. Each of these reactions, the explosive, the defensive, the implosive, eyes a victory for the attacker. You have just given them everything they wanted, confirmation that their strike landed, that their words have power over your inner state, that they control the emotional landscape. This is where the wisdom of a master like Machiavelli, repurposed for our spiritual journey, becomes your greatest shield and sharpest weapon. Machiavelli would tell you, and your higher self would agree, that the absolute worst thing you can do is show that it hurt you. Because the moment you look flustered, the instant you appear desperate, the second you become defensive, you have validated their power and surrendered your own. You've confirmed that they have found your button, and you can be sure they will press it again and again. So, what is the divine Machiavellian move? What is the response of the awakened soul? You don't react to the insult. You react to the crowd, or more accurately, you act for the crowd, but you are not attached to their approval. Here's the brutal, liberating truth. In the theater of humiliation, the crowd matters more than the attacker. Their collective perception is the energy that either fuels your defeat or your victory. In humiliation, it's not just about what someone said to you, it's about who witnessed it and, crucially, how you guide their interpretation of the event. Your counterattack, therefore, is not verbal. It's not a witty comeback or a scathing retort. It is psychological theater. It is energetic jujitsu. You don't fight fire with fire. That just creates a bigger blaze. You fight fire with frame control. You fight their chaotic, aggressive energy with a profoundly disruptive and unexpected calm. Let's break down this sacred strategy into 3 steps. Step 1. Neutralize the stage. When someone mocks you, they are expecting an emotional reaction. They have created a stage for a drama and have cast you as the emotional lead. They expect a performance: anger, defense, tears. Your first move is to refuse the role. You go still. Not a weak, frightened stillness, but a deep, centered stillness. Imagine a lake that is perfectly calm, reflecting the sky, no matter what stones are thrown into it. You hold a sharp, unbroken silence for a beat longer than is comfortable. You meet their gaze, or the gaze of the most influential person in the group, with unblinking eye contact. And then, you might allow a slow, almost surgical smirk to touch your lips. This is not for the attacker. This moment is for everyone watching, because what you are signaling isn't fear or pain. It's calculation, it's control, it's amusement. And that single subtle shift instantly changes the energy of the entire room. Why? Because human beings, at a primal level, instinctively fear the unpredictable, and a calm, silent, almost amused response from someone who was just publicly shamed is deeply, profoundly unsettling. It short-circuits their social programming. It makes people wonder, what's he thinking? Why isn't she reacting the way she's supposed to? What does he know that we don't? The crowd's energy, which was moments ago aligned with the attacker in mockery, now shifts to you in a state of confused and nervous uncertainty. You have seized the energetic initiative without saying a single word. Step 2. Reframe the attack as a weakness. This is where the true genius of this spiritual strategy comes into play. A master of this art doesn't just survive insults. They flip them into indictments of their enemy's character. You don't deny the attack. You absorb its force and redirect it to expose the attacker's true motive. Let's say someone mocks your past, a failure, or a perceived insecurity. You don't argue. You don't deny. You don't defend. Instead, after that powerful pause, you drop one single, cold, measured sentence, loaded with devastating implication. Something like, "It's revealing how badly you needed to say that." Or, "That's a lot of performance for so little impact." Notice what this does. You are not defending yourself. You are not engaging with the content of their insult at all. You are dissecting their need to humiliate you. You are framing their attack not as a reflection of your weakness, but as a glaring sign of their own desperation. And now, the spotlight has shifted again. The room goes quiet, not because you exploded, but because you surgically reversed the emotional current. Now the attacker is the one who is exposed. They look overextended, like they are trying too hard, like they are desperate for a reaction that you refuse to give them. This is psychological judo. You don't fight force with force. You use their momentum against them, guiding it to a place where it collapses under its own weight. You redirect it. Step 3. Own your flaw before they can weaponize it again. This is the final and most powerful step in achieving true energetic immunity. If the humiliation centered on something that contains a grain of truth, a past mistake, a genuine insecurity, do not dodge it. Own it. But you must own it on your terms, from a place of power. You say, "Yeah, that happened, and I'm still standing here, a better person for it," while you're still reaching for cheap shots. Or, "They've tried that one before." It still says more about them than about me. The key here is disarming the weapon before it can be reused. When you speak your flaw with calm conviction, when you integrate it as part of your story of strength and resilience, it loses all its power as a tool of shame. And more than that, it becomes proof of your strength. The Machiavellian, the spiritual sovereign, doesn't hide their scars. They polish them until they blind their enemies. You show the world that you are not afraid of being mocked because you no longer play by the emotional rules of the crowd. You have replaced the need for approval with the power of control. You don't need to win the moment. You just need to leave them thinking, doubting, hesitating, recalculating. And that is where true, lasting dominance begins. The goal after a humiliation attempt isn't to look strong, it's to look unbreakable. The difference is subtle, but profound. Looking strong can still invite more challenges, like a strong man daring others to test his might. But looking unbreakable makes people pause, rethink, fear. Machiavelli understood that the perception of invincibility is often more powerful than the proof of it. If people believe you cannot be humiliated because you simply do not acknowledge the rules that allow it, then no one dares to try again. And if they do, you won't just survive the next attack. You'll own the stage they built for your destruction, and you will turn it into your throne. There is no greater revenge than showing the one who tried to humiliate you that you are, and always were, beyond their reach. But make no mistake, this kind of psychological power isn't given. It's cultivated. It's forged in the fire of social failure, betrayal, and public embarrassment. And only those who learn how to weaponize perception, how to master the art of the frame, can rise from those ashes stronger than before. Because humiliation is never just about the words used. It's about who controls the interpretation. And in any public space, be it a dinner party, a workplace, a classroom, or the vast online battlefield, the one who defines the meaning of a moment controls the emotional aftermath. That's why Machiavelli's ultimate advice isn't to retaliate, it's to redirect. Imagine someone says something designed to get a cheap laugh at your expense, a sharp, rehearsed line designed to corner you. Most people try to fight their way out. But the sovereign mind doesn't struggle in the corner. He flips the walls inside out. Because humiliation only sticks if you accept the premise of the attack. Let's say someone says, "Didn't you mess that up last time too?" The default emotional response is embarrassment, excuse-making, or denial. But that's exactly what they want. That's the script they prepared for. Now, watch what happens when you refuse to play your assigned role. You pause, let the silence stretch just a second longer than it should. And then you say, slowly, with precision, "You've been holding onto that for a while, haven't you?" Suddenly, the moment isn't about your failure, it's about their obsession, their pettiness, their need to bring you down to feel taller. And now the audience sees it too. That is the beauty of this reversal. It doesn't deny reality, it reframes it. You let the attack come, but instead of dodging it, you let it reveal them. This principle is ancient. The Stoics knew it. Sun Tzu hinted at it. But Machiavelli took it into courtrooms, political chambers, and dinner tables, anywhere status could shift with a single sentence. He understood that in the theater of power, the most dangerous man is not the one who reacts. It's the one who absorbs everything and responds with meaning, not emotion. And one of his most brutal tactics: make their insult look like a confession. Here's how it works. When someone mocks you publicly, most of the time it reveals more about them than about you, but only if you know how to expose it. For example, someone calls you overcompensating during a serious discussion. Don't defend. Just tilt your head and calmly say, "That's an interesting thing to notice. You speak from experience? What you've just done is lethal." In that moment, you've planted the idea that their comment is projection. You've forced them to explain, which makes them look defensive. And you've taken the energy they tried to throw at you and made them carry it instead. People who humiliate others often do it to hide their own fears, their own insecurities, their desperate need to feel bigger in front of others. So when you reflect their insult back at them, not with anger, but with an unsettling curiosity, you turn their performance into a mirror they can't escape. And the best part? You stay emotionally flat, cold, surgical. That terrifies them more than rage ever could, because rage still means they control your feelings. A calm reversal means you control the game. This is how humiliation is transformed into status elevation. Most people think survival means walking away unharmed. But the spiritual sovereign doesn't just want to survive. He wants to win the scene. And to win, you must understand this. The crowd doesn't remember what was said. They remember who looked in control. That's all. So in every humiliating moment, your face becomes the canvas. Your voice becomes the stage. Your silence becomes the suspense. And when you finally speak, if you speak, it must never sound like defense. It must sound like strategy. Like the moment was a trap you knew was coming and had already planned for. Because when you can take a moment designed to shame you and make it look like you orchestrated the whole thing, that's when they stop laughing. And they start fearing. Humiliation only lasts if you play the victim. But the second you act like the architect of the moment itself, you become untouchable. The greatest power play isn't avoiding humiliation. It's engineering your reputation so precisely that when someone tries to humiliate you, they end up humiliating themselves instead. Machiavelli believed that true power doesn't come from striking first. It comes from being so unshakably composed under attack that the attacker looks childish for even trying. Because what makes humiliation destructive isn't the insult itself. It's the emotional collapse that follows. The subtle panic, the rushed words, the nervous laugh. The desperate desire to fix the image in front of the audience. And that's where most people fall into the trap. They try to regain control too fast. But power doesn't move fast. It moves with gravity. So when someone tries to humiliate you, your response must slow time. Your energy must drop, not rise. Your words must become fewer, not more. And your body must signal one thing: this is beneath me. Because the second you match their energy, you make their game look valid. But if you remain grounded cold, elegant, almost amused, you've already begun to reverse the effect. You've turned their punch into your frame. Here's how this works in real time. Say you're in a group telling a story, and someone interjects with a biting remark. Wow, you think everything you say is that deep? Now pause. What they're trying to do is reframe you as arrogant, someone who craves attention. The average person might defend. But what's really happening there? Justification. And in that moment, you've shifted into self-defense mode, meaning they win. Now watch how a Machiavellian response reshapes the entire room. You pause, maintain eye contact, not harsh, just observant, and say with a slight tilt of your head, "Interesting how much that bothered you." Nothing aggressive, nothing accusatory, just a sharp mirror. This single sentence flips the moment from "I'm arrogant" to "Why are they so uncomfortable with insight?" Now the focus isn't on what you said, it's on why they reacted. And people begin to realize that maybe, just maybe, the interrupter exposed more about their own insecurities than they intended. That's the Machiavellian reversal. Use their attack as a spotlight, not on you, but on them. It's not always about being clever with words. It's about weaponizing presence, holding your posture, letting your energy stay so still that people question why the attacker needed to speak in the first place. This is crucial. Humiliation is not a fact, it's a performance. And like all performances, it needs a stage, a spotlight, and most importantly, an audience. If you control the audience, you control the meaning. That's why when someone insults you, you shouldn't respond to the person, you respond to the room. You make sure your tone, your posture, your silence, even your micro-expressions, speak louder than their words. You make people feel like you are choosing not to respond, not because you're weak, but because you've already won. And that's unsettling, because most people expect humiliation to create an imbalance. But when you remain centered, utterly unaffected, you break the social script. You become unreadable, and unreadable people are always feared. Now here's another brutal trick most people miss. Humiliation is often rehearsed, especially in social groups. The jab they threw at you? It's probably not spontaneous. It was likely premeditated, said before, said behind your back, and now said in public to earn cheap validation. Which means your attacker already thinks they're clever, that they've found your button. But if you show no button exists, they feel exposed. This is where you go surgical. Let's say someone jokes, "Don't worry, you'll get it right eventually." Maybe. Laughter, smirks. A few eyes dart to you, waiting for a reaction. Here's what you do. You lean in slightly, subtly, and say with a cold smile, "That one sounded rehearsed. You've been saving it, huh?" This does two devastating things. You expose their preparation, ruining the illusion that it was spontaneous. You frame them as obsessed, someone who thinks about you more than they admit. You haven't denied anything. You haven't insulted back. You've simply made them look creepy. And now the crowd, previously laughing, is uncomfortable. They shift in their seats. Because suddenly the punchline isn't funny, it's awkward. And your attacker just became the joke they tried to make you into. That's the reversal. It's not about being the loudest. It's about being the one who reclaims the narrative without breaking a sweat. Now, let's go deeper. What if the humiliation isn't verbal? What if it's non-verbal exclusion? Being ignored, talked over, made to feel invisible. Here's how a sovereign responds. Step 1, don't chase inclusion. That's exactly what they want. Your neediness validates their dominance. Step 2, disengage, strategically, not emotionally. You don't storm off or pout. You disconnect your attention, look away, speak to someone else. Engage your phone. You signal. You do not crave their validation. Step 3, reframe the room. Start generating value in a different pocket of the room. Build gravity elsewhere. Let them realize they lost your focus, and with it, the spotlight they tried to steal. Because Machiavelli knew, attention is currency. And when you stop spending it on people who try to embarrass you, you bankrupt their power over you. The final, brutal lesson. Sometimes you don't need to say anything at all. You just let them dig, because people who humiliate others are often addicted to attention. And if you give them just enough rope, without interrupting, without reacting, they'll eventually reveal themselves. They'll say too much, push too far, lose the crowd, all while you remain untouched. And that's when you speak, just once, just one sentence that reframes the entire spectacle they created. You seem really committed to this performance. And then silence. You've won. Because humiliation only works on people who are desperate to protect their ego. But when you've detached from the need to be seen as flawless, you become immune. And that immunity terrifies people who survive on your weakness. They realize you're not afraid of being seen. You're dangerous because you're not afraid of being misunderstood. That is psychological armor. Not the kind that blocks attacks, but the kind that makes attackers hesitate before trying again. Because they don't know what you'll do. And worse, they know you'll do it well. Power doesn't shout. It doesn't scramble to save face. True power, the Machiavellian kind, remains still in the storm because it knows the storm can be redirected. The people who try to humiliate you in public, especially in front of others, aren't just testing your composure. They're attempting to rewrite your social identity right in front of your audience. That's the deeper layer most never see. This is not just about embarrassment, it's identity warfare. And if you don't seize the pen back fast, the crowd will accept their version of you as truth. That's why the most critical part of a Machiavellian reversal isn't the witty line or the icy smirk. It's your refusal to be framed. Because once someone succeeds in framing you as weak, awkward, desperate, overconfident, or irrelevant in front of others, every future interaction now filters through that image. So how do you destroy that frame without falling into emotional reaction? Let's break down the psychology and tactics Machiavelli would use, step by step. 1. The law of disruption. When someone humiliates you in public, they expect to control the flow. They have rehearsed their moment, lined it with punchy timing, expectant laughter, and eye contact with others to pull them into their theater. So, your first weapon is to break the rhythm. Not loudly, not defensively, but by doing something unexpectedly calm, something slow, something unfit for the emotional temperature they tried to create. A long pause, a sip of your drink, a raised brow, a deliberate lean back in your chair, a complete lack of verbal response. This creates social confusion. Now the crowd starts to shift, not because of what was said, but because of the gap in reaction. They expected retaliation or retreat. Instead, they get quiet power, suspense. This moment is where you make them lose audience control. Because suddenly, you're not the one being watched as weak. You're the one being watched for your next move. And that move must be razor sharp. 2. The precision cut. Once you've disrupted the flow, now you speak, but never to defend yourself. That's what average people do. You speak to expose the neediness of your attacker. Let's say someone mocks your performance in front of others. Did you really think that was impressive? Don't defend. Don't correct. That's the trap. Instead, calmly reply, "Strange how much attention you give me for someone who's not impressed." Now watch what happens. They freeze. The crowd tilts. You haven't insulted them. You've refocused the lens from your performance to their obsession with it. You've implied insecurity without naming it. And that makes it more powerful, because everyone now sees it. They don't need it explained. The image is planted. The one who tried to humiliate you is more consumed by you than they want to admit. That's what makes it Machiavellian. You turn their spotlight into a confession. 3. Don't be right, be undeniable. Here's what most people misunderstand about social dynamics. The person who wins the argument doesn't always win the crowd. Why? Because being right feels good only to the ego. But being undeniably composed, unshakably calm, disarmingly clear, that creates a power impression that lasts far longer than words. It's not about facts. It's about frame control. The real game is about who controls the meaning of what just happened. So you might say something like, "That's one interpretation." But the fact that you need to say it says more than the words themselves. With that single sentence, you refuse their version of reality. Place the emotional spotlight back on them. Sound cold, clear, and above the game they're trying to pull you into. That's how power speaks, with surgical neutrality. 4. The echo of dignity. Now let's talk about the aftermath. Because in a world full of cheap moments, dignity is disruptive. Once you've reversed a humiliation attempt, don't stay to bask in the glory. Don't over-explain. Don't repeat the moment to others. You simply move on, cleanly, without signaling that you needed to win. And that silence echoes. People remember how you handled it, not with noise, but with weight. They'll say, "He didn't flinch. She made him look stupid without even trying. That was cold." And then you rise. That's the Machiavellian elevation. You took the hit they thought would break you and made it your platform. 5. Anticipate future traps. Here's what few understand. When you reverse humiliation successfully, it will not be the last attempt. Once you establish yourself as calm, dominant, and unbreakable, those who rely on group dynamics, social control, or performance-based bullying will feel threatened, and they'll try again. Smarter, softer, maybe through others. So prepare. The next time might not be direct mockery. It might be a compliment designed to sting, a question designed to frame, a silence designed to isolate, and your response should always be the same. Never act from emotion. Always respond with direction. A Machiavellian never lets others define the game. If someone's trying to humiliate you, they've already lost. Because they revealed one thing: they see you as a threat. Let that be your power. Not vengeance, not applause. Just the quiet recognition that your mere existence, your stillness, your refusal to bend that alone is enough to make someone break character in public. And when they do, you don't react. You observe. You let the silence do your work. And then, only if necessary, you speak once. Not to strike, to seal the moment in memory, to make it irreversible. That's how Machiavelli would do it. Not loudly, not wildly, but with a calm precision that leaves their reputation bleeding, while yours stands untouched in the smoke.